This is the mindset that helped me overcome depression and step into my highest potential. Oh, I'm so excited about this video and to just dive into this topic. I just think there is so much power in sharing our stories, in sharing our journeys, and just learning from each other and how we have overcome our own adversities in our lives. You might be in a place right now where you're just like, is there a light at the end of this tunnel? You might be going through something really, really hard right now. You might be questioning your worth. You might be questioning if life is even worth living. And this is why I want to make this video, because I have been in that place. And I want to tell you, girl, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There is a way for you to step into the highest version of yourself, no matter what adversity and challenge that you are facing right now. And girl, you are so much stronger than you think you are. And I am here to tell you that. And I really hope that by me sharing my story, my journey today, it really empowers you, inspires you, and shows you how strong you really are when you embody this one mindset. And that's what I'm going to focus on. Just embodying this one mindset is what has allowed me to beat my depression, to beat my anxiety, to build the life of my dreams that I am so gratefully living right now. So my journey and where this really started with, right? This is where it's just like, get your teas, get your blankets, whatever, and like sit down, story time. Where my journey really started, I would say it probably started in middle school. So in middle school, I went to a very different elementary school than a lot of my friends in elementary school. So when I say elementary school, I'm referring to grade 1 to 5. Middle school for me was grade 6 to 8. I know some people go, 1 to 8, but mine were different. I got accepted into this special SciTech program. There was like 800 students that competed for like 56 spots. And the SciTech program was very different because we had 3 extra courses of science a day. So woohoo, got accepted, everyone's happy. And this school that I went to, already, I looked very different than a lot of the kids there. I wasn't, allowed to shave or wax. So y'all bet I went to school with hairy legs and arms, and that obviously did not go well in a middle school environment. And I generally just find middle school is such a strange time because you're starting to get older, the hormones are starting to kick in, you're starting to develop a sense of self, and in middle school, you just tend to be so much more impressionable, especially by your peers. You don't know who you are, and oftentimes we turn to other people to tell us who we are, especially when you're at a younger age. I also had like a really long like braid and pony, and I didn't cut my hair, and so I looked very different than a lot of the kids there. So perfect target for being bullied. And that was what my life was like in middle school. I was bullied, I was made fun of, and I literally remember every single day on the bus going home and crying at home. And, it was just such an awful time for me. Like, I hated middle school. I dreaded that time in my life. And I even remember this one specific instance. So I dealt with a lot of acne also growing up. And I don't just mean acne on my face. I had acne all over my chest and my arms. And I was very self-conscious of that all over my back. And I remember I would wear long sleeve shirts, and I really would make sure I wouldn't show parts of my skin, even though it was really hot outside. I remember this one time, so I would never change in the girls' change room. And I remember this one time I decided to just change in front of everybody instead of going into a little cubby and changing. And I remember my 2 closest friends supposedly at that time, they were like starting to point at me, to laugh at me. And the whole change room goes quiet, and you can hear them say all these really awful things about me. And I felt so bad about myself. I remember running out of that change room, just crying, being really upset. And that memory, even though it happened so many years ago, is still so vivid in my mind. And so it's moments like this that just really shaped me at that time. And I started to hate myself. I started to hate myself so much at that young age. I felt so much shame, and literally disgust. When I got older and I would go to, and I went to therapy, that was the word that came up often. Like I felt disgusting as myself and who I was. And there was just so much shame tied to my self-image and how I viewed myself. And that started in those middle school years. When I got to grade 8, I talked to my parents. I had the option. They were telling me, you should go to like an IB special program or the SciTech high school or whatever it is, right? Continuing with these special programs. But I just had such an awful experience in middle school. I was like, nope, I want to go to an average school. I had a beautiful time in elementary school and I actually wanted to reconnect with some of those friends that I went to elementary school with. So I wanted to go to my local high school. My brother also went to that same high school too. So I was even more inclined to want to go there. It was, an average public high school. That's what I wanted. I didn't want to go to any of these special programs. And so my parents agreed. And that summer from grade 8 to grade 9, I spent hours and hours trying to learn how to do makeup, trying to learn how to do hair. All the makeup skills, y'all, I have now, it was since I learned in middle school, okay? That's when I learned all these things, how to do my eyeliner, my eyelashes, all that stuff. Maybe now once in a while, if I see a cool trend, I will go and look it up and do it. But all my makeup skills I learned when I was in the summer of grade 8 to grade 9, hair skills too, all of that then. Definitely grateful for that now. So I started really using my image as a way to cope because I believed, I was bullied because of my image. So I believe that if I completely change my image around, if I do a complete 180 and become this whole different girl, I'll have a different experience. And so that's what I believed in high school. So a lot of my self-worth started to be based off of how I looked, and I became obsessed with that. And then when I got into high school, the other thing I became obsessed with were achievements, getting the best grades, being an all-star athlete, being involved in as many clubs and, doing as much as I can do in school, because a lot of my self-worth then became correlated to what I was achieving in school. I feel like you can relate with that a little bit too, whether it's the looks, whether it's the achievements, but I'm sure you can relate with tying your self-worth to these things, especially being a young person. Then as I got into high school, these feelings that I had about myself, these feelings of disgust and shame as a result of the bullying, they didn't really go away. I masked them for a year or two, grade 9, grade 10. And when I got into grade 11, I met a guy, and this also completely ruined me. I entered into a very, very toxic relationship. He cheated on me multiple times, a lot of lying. And at this time, my emotions and those low feelings that I was experiencing got even more heightened. I didn't know how to deal with them at all. My family could see that this guy wasn't good for me. I would lie to them and go hang out with him. I did some wild things like running away from home. And now looking back, I could see how deeply I was suffering with depression. And so we oftentimes think that when it comes to depression, it looks like us lying in bed and not wanting to get out. But when it comes to depression in young people, it can look vastly different. And some young people who are erratic, who lash out, who sometimes do these outrageous things might actually be dealing with depression because they don't know how to cope with these feelings. So important to keep that in mind. Mental illnesses can show up in different ways in younger children and youth because they don't know what feelings they're experiencing, versus as adults, we can identify them a bit easier. So I started doing all of these things, and I went from being this all-star athlete to the straight A student to, having healthy relationships with my family, and all of that felt like it was lost and gone. I remember when I was in grade 12 and my chemistry tutor put down this test and I basically failed the test. I was shocked. And I was just I don't even know if I'm going to get into university. God bless the Lord, I somehow passed and I made it to Waterloo University. And now this is where things got worse and worse for me. And by the way, with that relationship, that guy ended up actually leaving me for my best friend. So great, that definitely messed me up in my head even more. And then I went to first year university. I went to the University of Waterloo. Again, still not getting the help and support that I needed. I think I went to the doctor once when I was in high school, and he gave me a prescription and was like, take happy pills and bye. And obviously I did not want to do that. And so I didn't. And then when I got to Waterloo University, now I'm even more isolated. I'm in this whole new place. I barely know anyone here. And this is where the depression of just like being isolated in the room, right? This is when I really started to do all that. I stayed to myself even more, and I started dealing with really, really extreme anxiety and panic attacks. And then things got so bad in my second year of university that I actually ended up in the hospital. I remember I had one of my best friends there with me that time. And I still remember that night so well. And I was just so disappointed. I was scared. I was worried. And I was just like, holy shit. Like, if nothing changes, this is what my life is going to be like. And I was just like, I refuse. I had known that I've always wanted to help people. I know that I've always wanted to change, I would literally like change the world and make an impact in the world. And I knew that if I wanted to do all of that, if I wanted to help people, then I needed to help myself first. And I'm so grateful for everything that led up to that. And that's really when my journey began. And I'll tell you about the mindset that I really embodied. I think it's important to understand the lead up there and how I started to develop this mindset that helped me beat depression. But I started to get help, started to see a therapist. Lindsay from Waterloo, you literally saved my life, so God bless you. Amazing. She was amazing. I'm not sure if she still works there, but she was a therapist that I started to see there. And I started to, do a little bit of work on myself. I tried group therapy at that time as well. Absolutely hated it. This is why I've developed my own program now to build a community that actually works and is amazing. And as I started to do some therapy, some group therapy, I started to get a little bit better, but I still wasn't fully where I wanted to be. I still felt like there were pieces that were missing. It was like I was waking up, I was like maybe a couple percent better, but I wanted to feel 100% better. I wanted to wake up and feel joy, to feel excited to get started with my day. And so this is where I started to get curious. I was like, there has to be more to this. It can't be just therapy and group therapy. It can't be just medications, and this is all there is. So I started to do my own research. And I started to really get curious about what are the foods that I should be eating? How should I be taking care of my body? I remember in university, I experimented so much. I was vegan. I was carnivore. I was keto. I tried so many of these different diets. I even remember, once, I specifically remember this day where I was just like, I'm going to try healthy pizza. So I made the pizza dough at home. I put sauce on there, and all there were like vegetables on top. I didn't have any cheese or anything like that because I wanted to be really, really healthy. And that's just what I would do. I would just experiment with all these different foods and diets, and I just became obsessed. I would wake up really early, like 5, 6 a.m. I would go to the gym, take the bus to the gym, and I did that. And I made sure I was getting my movement in. I made sure that before bed, I would read and I would avoid technology so that my sleep would be good. And I just started putting so much more emphasis onto building a better community. I started to get more involved in my school, and I started to experiment to see what would make me feel good. I had always loved playing sports, so I started to do more sport-like things. And I started to just experiment with all these different things. I started to knit. I started doing spoken word poetry. Looking back, I have no idea how I got into that. I think Rupi Kaur was starting to get really big in that, and I always loved writing as a kid. So I started to just do that and just write more, and I enjoyed it so much. And I did a couple of spoken word poetry performances at my university. I did some like poetry slams at the Drake Hotel in Toronto, and it just became so enjoyable for me. I was painting so much at that time, and I found so much joy in painting. And I was just doing all of these things just to figure out like, who am I? What makes me feel good? And this is part of that mindset, is getting into and being okay with experimenting, with trying different things. And really what it was me not giving up on myself. I believed and I knew no matter what happens, I am going to get through this. I remember this day specifically. I was coming back home I forgot if it was a therapy session or it was a gym or whatever. And I was just feeling so upset about my life. This was when I was in university and it was pouring rain and I was so angry and I was almost like stomping back to my apartment and I was crying and I was just like, no matter what happens, I am going to make my life as beautiful as it can be. No matter what happens, I am not giving up on myself. And I remember in that moment being like, bring it on, life. And I was just like, bring it on, God. And I was like, God, even if you come and stand in my way right now, I will push you out of the way because I am not giving up on myself and the life that I want to build. And that is the mindset that helped me beat depression. It was not giving up on myself. It was willing to experiment and try everything I could get my hands on to see what would work for me. What happens to a lot of us is that we try a few things and we're just like, oh, this didn't work, so whatever. Like, I guess this is not meant for me and that's it. I'm just going to go back to what I was doing before because I'm not meant to be healthy. I'm not meant to feel good. And this is just what my life is meant to be like. And that is the absolute worst possible mindset that you could ever be in because your life is meant for so much more than that. And there was a point. So now I'm at this point, right? I think this was about probably third year university. Starting to feel better, taking care of my body better, therapy's working well. But I was still just like, why am I still not feeling as good as I need to feel? And then my therapist suggests again that maybe I try antidepressant medication for a little bit. And so I did. I was just like, hey, I've tried so many things. What do I have left to lose? I'm going to try this too. So I tried this antidepressant medication. It was specifically called venlafaxine. I was on the lowest dose, which I think is 37.5 milligrams. And I started to take it. And boy, oh boy, I started to feel so good. I almost like to describe it as like if my life at that point was a puzzle piece and the centerpiece was missing, it's almost like I took that medication and boom, just like everything in my life started to fit, everything started to make sense, and I started to feel that much better about everything around me. And here's the thing though, right? When you're feeling this good, it comes with a little caveat. I remember this one time where I forgot my medication at school. I forgot to bring it at home. And when I woke up during the day, oh my God, the withdrawal symptoms, absolutely insane. I felt nauseous. I felt dizzy. I felt like I wanted to vomit and throw up. My negative thoughts were back 10 times harder. And I hadn't taken that pill in 24 hours, just missing it for one day. And I remember in the car ride back to my university, I was like yelling at my dad and I was just like, drive faster, like I need it. And I literally felt like someone who was addicted to drugs and I just needed that next hit in order to survive and feel good. And that's what really shook me. And hey, don't get me wrong. There is nothing wrong with using medication if you need to. And honestly, there are some really severe disorders like schizophrenia, depending on the intensity of it, like bipolar disorder, depending on the intensity of it, where sometimes you need to be on medication for life. Sometimes really severe forms of depression, you do. And nothing wrong with that. But for me in that moment, and again, this is my personal story, right? So please take this with a grain of salt. This doesn't mean this applies to you. I'm just sharing my journey, my story. In that moment though, I was shook and shocked. And I was just like, wow. Like I was shocked at how dependent my body had become. And I told myself, I think this was about 4 or 5 months into me taking the medication. I told myself that I was going to do everything in my power to get off this, to make sure that my happiness was in my hands. And I think that was a big thing for me. I just was sick and tired of depending on things outside of me to feel happy. And I wanted to be full control of my happiness. So while I was on the medication, I was working 10 times harder to build healthy strategies for myself. And then I got off it. So I was using it for 10 months. I got off it. And to be honest with you, this is how I think antidepressants really should be used. We should be using them to lower the intensity of our symptoms so we can heal our mind and body at the root cause and then get off them, right? Use them as a tool. What happens with so many of us is that we go on antidepressant medication and then we don't support our mindset. We don't support our bodies in a healthy way. And then we become dependent on it. You shouldn't be dependent on it. You should be using it as a tool to support your body, and you should still be taking care of your body with all of the other healthy ways. Important to keep that in mind. At least that is my perspective and view on medications. So then, I did even more experimentation, was like journaling, doing all of these things to really find out what worked for me. And I got off the antidepressant medication, and I started to feel really, really good off of them too. And as more time went on, the more that I prioritized myself, the more I dug deeper and got curious to see where things are coming from, I just started to feel so, so good. And there was no going back from that. And again, that is the mindset that I embody even today. No matter what goal it is that I'm trying to achieve, no matter what it is that I want out of my life, I go back to, I am not freaking giving up. Nothing is going to stop me from achieving my goals. Nothing is going to stop me from feeling as good as I want to feel. Nothing is going to stop me from stepping into my highest potential and becoming the woman that I am meant to be. That is the mindset that I want you to embody. And when you embody that mindset of not giving up, you naturally experiment and try different strategies until you can see what is going to help you achieve your goals. Your brain isn't broken. You just haven't found the right strategy that works for you yet. That is a mantra I speak and I repeat, and I want you to embody. You can accomplish anything in your life with the right strategy, but keep in mind, you might have to try lots and lots and lots of different ways until you actually achieve your goal and what it is you want to get in life. And I did. I worked hard on my brain health for 4 or 5 years, and I still work hard on my brain health. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about my health. I don't intentionally prioritize my health. I don't intentionally prioritize myself and who I am. It has to be an everyday thing, but that's what I love about it. And when you choose to love that, it becomes easy to do in your life. So I hope that my story helped. I hope that this really empowers you and inspires you and reminds you that you are so, so strong, girl. You are so much stronger than you realize. And I promise you, as long as you don't give up on yourself, you will get to the light at the end of the tunnel. As long as you don't give up on yourself, you will achieve all your goals and dreams because you can. You deserve that. And I know that you can do it. Don't give up on yourself. Embrace that mindset. Embrace the experiments that you need to do and the strategies that you need to try to support you, to help you get to where you want to get to. That's it. That's all you have to embody. This is the mindset that I want you to carry with you into the new year. This mindset of not giving up. This mindset of I'm going to keep trying and trying and trying, and I know that one of these things one day is going to work. Thank you so much for being here. Carry this energy, embody this not giving up mindset into the new year. Carry this with you. If you like this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.